Manzi always made sure to call his grandmother, and she was always happy to hear from him. He applied to a new college, and they gave him 2 weeks before he needed to start. When Manzi went to this new college, he walked instead of driving his car and tried not to show that he owned anything. The first thing that surprised him was seeing 2 classmates from his old university in his new class. He also noticed Rora, a girl who used to sit alone in his previous class. He was shocked to see them there since he didn't expect to meet anyone he knew. Curious, Manzi approached Rora and asked, "Aren't you Rora from the other university?" She replied, "Yeah, I am. I also transferred here." Manzi said, "I didn't expect to see anyone familiar, but it's nice to meet you." She responded, "Yeah, it's nice to meet you too." After class, they started talking and found they had a lot of stories to share. However, Aurora was a bit confused, thinking Manzi was just another charming guy that every girl liked. She couldn't figure out why she was talking to him. The classmates from the other university didn't want to lose touch with Manzi, so they invited him to a party the next day. Manzi didn't want to say no. He invited one of the classmates who declined it, so he decided to invite Rora. After class, Manzi asked Rora if she wanted to go to the party with him, and she agreed since it was her first time attending a party with those classmates from her old university. At the party, a group of girls gathered around Manzi, wanting to talk to him. Rora felt nervous because it was her first time at such a party. After a few minutes, she excused herself to go to the bathroom, and some of the girls followed her. In the bathroom, they taunted her, saying, "Who brought you to this party, loner girl?" She stayed quiet and just looked in the mirror. They continued, "How did you get to talk to that handsome guy? He wouldn't talk to someone like you. Did you walk here?" They laughed loudly, and she quickly left the bathroom. After taking a few drinks, she told Manzi that she wanted to leave, and they left together. This time, no one followed them out as they usually did when Manzi left a party. The next day, Rora didn't come to class. Manzi noticed her empty seat and wondered if she was okay, but since he didn't have her phone number, he just assumed she was fine. Meanwhile, Rora was sitting alone in her messy room, feeling down. She didn't like anyone seeing how lonely she was. As more parties were being thrown, Rora surprisingly asked Manzi if he wanted to go to another one that weekend. Manzi was surprised and asked, "Is it really you saying this?" She laughed and said, "Yeah, it's me." Manzi replied, "Well, I've decided not to go to any more parties." She asked, "Why not?" "We are just starting the term, and there's not much to study." "I'm sure you don't have a job, so let's have some fun, Mr. Brown." Manzi smiled and said, "You're right, but next time, make sure you come to class." She promised, "I'll never miss class again." They both smiled and agreed to go to the party. At the party, the same girls confronted Rora again in the bathroom, asking, "Why are you here again? Don't you know where you belong?" This time, she didn't feel good about it. She left the house, then Manzi followed her out. They left the party without anyone caring to follow them, as they were no longer interested in Manzi since he wasn't paying for anything anymore. This made Manzi realize that those classmates only liked him for his money. Later, Manzi visited his sister and told her about how his classmates stopped talking to him after he stopped paying for things. His sister laughed and said that university is known as the Money Party University. They both laughed. Manzi then mentioned Rora and how he felt bad for bringing her to the party where she was treated poorly. His sister advised him, "Just don't let them know you have money. That's how you'll know if they're really good people." Manzi assured her, "I haven't shown them anything, and I don't plan to. But Rora seems like a good person." The next day in class, Rora was absent again. This time, Manzi had her number, so he called her, but she didn't answer. Meanwhile, Rora was lying in bed, wondering what she did to deserve all the hate from others. At the same time, Manzi hadn't seen his brothers for a while, so he decided to visit them. The conversation didn't go well because his brothers asked him for money, and Manzi didn't think it was a good idea since they had been wasting their money lately. He left their place feeling unhappy. When he got home, he called Rora again. This time, she answered, and they met in a crowded neighborhood. Despite both having a bad day, they went out for food and ended up feeling happy in the moment. Rora asked if she could see where Manzi lived. The next morning, they went to his place, which was in a messy neighborhood, but it didn't seem to matter as their friendship grew stronger. The next day, Amina from the village called Manzi to check on him. But every time they talked, Manzi felt a bit unhappy. Not long after their call, Rora came to visit him with some drinks, and they sat outside. Manzi seemed quieter than usual. Rora noticed and asked, "You seem quiet today. Is everything okay?" Manzi replied, "No problem. I just slept late last night, that's all. But I enjoyed the food and drinks we had. We should go there more often." They both smiled and continued their conversation happily. As their friendship deepened, Rora visited Manzi after class to go for a walk, but he wasn't home. Rora started to worry that maybe Manzi was running out of money, and that's why he seemed off. The next morning at school, she decided to pay his school fees, telling the finance office that they were relatives. Afterwards, she ran into a friend who used to sit alone with her. He greeted her and said, "You shouldn't be close to that guy. Do you even know where he's from? He's new here, and you shouldn't trust him." Rora listened but didn't say anything before leaving. Meanwhile, Manzi was at his sister's place, resting because he was feeling sick. When he woke up, he saw a notification that his school fees had been paid, and he was shocked. That night, Rora came to see Manzi again, despite being warned about him. Manzi was happy to see her, and she invited him to her brother's birthday, wanting to have the same food they had the night before. They had a great time, took pictures, and made good memories. Their friendship grew, and as the term was ending, their lecturer gave them assignments for later submission. Rora then invited Manzi to her place for the first time, feeling nervous because she thought he might assume she was rich like other girls. But Manzi didn't care about that, he was just happy to see her place. They worked on their assignments and other projects together. Manzi mentioned that a friend offered him a job that paid little and asked if she'd like to help. He offered to pay her, pretending he needed help because he didn't want her to know he had money. They worked hard together, often staying up late on their computers. Manzi told her, "I have to pay you since they pay me." They both smiled. The first time he paid her, she bought him a black t-shirt and said, "I think you need a new shirt." They both smiled and continued working together, becoming close friends and partners. Manzi later visited his brothers again. They apologized for their behavior, and they reconciled, happily discussing their business. He also told them about his friendship with Rora. The next day, while walking outside his house, Manzi was surprised to see Amina in front of his house. Meanwhile, Rora was coming to visit him with drinks, as it had become their usual routine. But when she saw another girl with Manzi talking and looking happy, she immediately left without saying anything. Manzi saw her leaving. Rora went straight to her house and jumped into bed, trying to push the painful scene out of her mind. But Manzi wasn't ready to give up on her. He came over to her house, knocking on her door and asking her to open it. Rora ignored him at first. For an hour, he kept knocking and asking for her to let him in. As she lay in bed, she thought about how much she needed money. This thought made her finally get up and open the door. Manzi stood there, looking serious and apologetic. He gently took her hand and said, "I'm really sorry for everything. I don't even know where to start, but I'm truly sorry." Despite his apology, Rora still felt unsure. Her friend had warned her about Manzi and she was hesitant to trust him. But Manzi continued, "Hey, I really like you. I enjoy being around you, and I'm so grateful for our bond." Rora listened to him and asked, "So, what are we doing today?" Manzi suggested that they meet the next morning because he wanted to show her something special. She agreed, and the next morning, they took a bus to a village. When they arrived in the village, Manzi's grandmother greeted them with great warmth. Rora was surprised by the warm welcome and how happy everyone was to see her. Manzi took her to his family's village, and she was delighted by the genuine kindness and hospitality. It was a new and joyful experience for her. The next day, Manzi had another surprise. He revealed that they were attending Amina's wedding. Rora was amazed by the wedding ceremony, and it was clear that everyone was very happy, including Manzi and Amina. The celebration was full of joy and love. After the wedding, Manzi sat down with Rora and shared his story. He told her that he and his siblings had lost their parents when they were very young. Because their family was wealthy, they had been sent to live with their grandparents to learn about life in different circumstances. He explained that his siblings owned many properties and had a lot of money. Rora felt sympathy for him but was also interested in seeing more of his family's farms and cattle. They visited the farms, and Rora was impressed by what she saw. Their friendship grew stronger as they spent time together and learned more about each other. When they returned, Rora asked, "Is that why everyone at our university liked you so much? Because you have all these properties?" Manzi replied, "Yeah, I guess so. But I didn't like that. I wanted to make true friends. I came to college not just to study but to learn about life as someone who isn't always surrounded by wealth." He continued, "I'm really happy to be with you. My grandmother liked you a lot, and I'm sure you're wonderful." They spent time together, sharing stories and enjoying each other's company. Manzi decided to show Rora more about his life. He took her to his sister's house, where a party was planned to celebrate them. His sister had known about his feelings for Rora and wanted to celebrate their bond. At the party, Rora was taken to a room where she was given beautiful dresses to try on. She chose a yellow one. Meanwhile, Manzi and Rora went outside for a private conversation. Rora asked, "How did you hide all this from me? I thought you were just like me. I even brought a simple t-shirt, thinking you didn't have anything else. I feel like a fool now." Manzi smiled and said, "You make me really happy. I've never been this happy before." Rora replied, "You make me happy too. I like you a lot." Manzi then asked, "Do you like me, or do you love me?" Rora felt nervous and rested her head on his shoulder. Manzi said, "I'm in love with you. I'm grateful to God that I met you. I love you." Rora, moved by his words, said, "Are you trying to make me cry now? I love you even more." Their friendship deepened into love. Manzi showed Rora his international architecture company, which amazed her. She couldn't believe the surprises he had for her. After visiting the company, they went back to Rora's house. She asked him many questions about why he hired her and if he was really the one who made the decision. Manzi responded, "Let's stop talking about that. I want to take some photos of you because you look even more beautiful now." They took pictures together and enjoyed their time. As their love grew, they went on many dates and had great conversations. Manzi eventually proposed to Rora, and she said yes. They became engaged and continued to work hard, with Rora joining Manzi's company to help with marketing. They maintained their close friendship and often visited Manzi's grandparents in the village, creating more happy memories. After graduating from university, they continued to support each other and grew even closer. Their bond turned into a beautiful love story. They got married and started their life together, cherishing their love and the journey they had shared. Their initial misunderstandings and challenges led to a deep, loving relationship, and they lived happily ever after.